Hello and welcome to the news. Our story today is about rethinking food waste. First, we'll open up with a food waste overview with our own specialist, Dr. Wasting. Then we'll move over to our energy specialist, Sunny. After that, we'll look over with our chef and see how he is trying to incorporate insects into food. And then we'll have a live interview with some mushrooms. We'll take a deep dive into Dana Cohen's captivating TED Talk. And as per usual, we will close out with how this relates and inspires the viewers at home. First up, Dr. Wasting. Hello, I'm Dr. Wasting, and today I will be giving an overview on food waste. But firstly, I want to talk about how much food we're wasting. According to the article I'm referencing, nutritional and environmental losses embedded in global food waste, we're breaking it down into something called daily diets. For example of how this works is the UK has attributed 42 daily diets to the average person per year. That roughly means that the average person wastes enough food per year to feed a different person 42 days worth of food. That is a monstrosity of food waste. So this is terrible, but we're also looking at a strange relationship here. So the relationship is that there's an imbalance of food waste. So these wealthier countries like the United States and the United Kingdom are wasting a lot more food and being a lot more careless than some of the poor regions that are forced into nutrient-lacking lifestyles. Absolutely despicable. And so while wasting food in itself is morally wrong, it also has environmental impacts. The article that I'm referencing talks about 5 different concentrations that are impacted. We're talking about nitrogen, phosphorus use, cropland usage, water consumption, and greenhouse gases. So as we've talked about, traditional farming does give way to produce more greenhouse gases, and those are harmful for the environment, but we're also talking about using an abundance of water and space, which are 2 areas that we don't have a surplus of right now. Hopefully, by educating the public, we can try to reduce food waste. Back to you, studio. Excellent opening, Doctor. Thank you. Now we'll move over to our energy specialist here at News Station, Sunny. Hiya, folks. It's Sunny here. A beautiful day today in Davis. A little dark for my liking, but fantastic nonetheless. We're not even actually talking about the sun today, sadly, but another fantastic form of dealing with energy, anaerobic digestion, and food waste management. So as you guys know, anaerobic digestion, a fantastical new process system that is taking food waste and turning it into energy. We even, if you guys remember in class, talked about people taking the biogas created from anaerobic digestion and using it to power trucks that can take waste from households to anaerobic digestion management systems, because as you guys know, unfortunately, this process is not easy nor DIY. We even learned in that video about the cows that if certain farms don't have enough cows on their farms, then they don't qualify for their own anaerobic digestion facility, meaning their waste continues to be waste. But don't get discouraged as scientists and studies continue marching through the fields of food waste management. I'm sure we'll see more precise advancements in technological involvement within this field. Plus, I don't even mean to knock anaerobic digestion. When it works beautifully. I mean, we are taking waste and we're either turning it into biogas, which can power vehicles, or we're turning it into compost and fertilizer and then redistributing that back to farms. I mean, it is truly wonderful. And then we're obviously trying to reduce food waste. We're taking food scraps out of those landfills and putting it back to where it matters, in the heart of farms. So, of course, thank you for listening. It's been fantastic. Back to you, studio. Thank you, Sunny. A pleasure as always. Now we move over to our very own chef here at News Station, Chef Food. Chef will be talking about incorporating some insects onto our menu. Take it away, Chef.
Hello, it is I, Chef Food, here to talk to you today about eating insects. Delicious, but do not fret, my lovely viewers at home. I fear, like we discussed in class, there is such an ugly cloud around the idea of eating insects, which is truly preventing us from greatness. Now, as you guys might know, you eat other meat, so just pretend that insect meat is the same as other meat. Now, you might be thinking, Chef Food, why would I pretend I'm eating pig when I'm eating insects when I could just be eating pig? That is not false information. However, insects are actually quite much better for the environment. You see, insects require less water, they require less space, and also, the good thing about insects is that their food is not hard to find. Why? Because insects eat food waste, a double brilliance. Plus, my young viewers, if we're looking at Orgaz's study, like we looked at in class, we're actually looking about how insects do have quite a lot of nutritional benefits as well. Insects are high in protein and other nutrients. We actually saw that larvae have some of the highest protein as compared to traditional meats. Plus, normal livestock animals, once they're slaughtered, do not have that much dietary fiber, unlike insects. So, my young viewers, I hope with a little bit of love in the kitchen and a little bit of spices, you too will learn to love eating insects as much as you love eating bacon. Thank you. Ciao. Back to you, studio.
Excellent stuff, Chef. Now heading over to a live exclusive interview with some mushrooms. Hello, News Studio. I am so delighted to welcome our guests today, mushrooms. Hello. Now, this is some very exciting news today. So, mushrooms, you were actually newly credited with the title Darlings of Sustainability by Laura Riley. How do you feel about that? I feel fantastic for that. How marvelous. Now, one of these reasons is how little resources it takes for you to flourish. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I can elaborate indeed. Similar to insects, mushrooms require less space, water, and energy than traditional crops. We don't require fields and endless watching like some diva crops. We've even been grown in small apartments within laundry hampers, and with a few sprays of water every so often we flourish still.
Wow, that is fascinating. However, I imagine that took ages.
No, not ages at all. Mushrooms have been seen as great economic opportunities because not only are we fast growing, but we produce a great deal given a little space. So this pair with our rapid growth is actually quite marketable, you see.
Wow, that is wonderful. Now, I've actually been hearing about something called mycelium-based products. Can you elaborate on that?
Of course I can. Mushrooms aren't just great for snacking or stew. Using mycelium, we can create tons of new resources. More sustainable fabrics for clothes, or sustainable and eco-friendly packaging as well.
Wow, you guys really are the darlings of sustainability. Thank you so much for your time today, mushrooms. Back to you, studio. Truly honored to be able to have some mushrooms on the air with us today. However, that does close out all the articles for today's episode. So now we'll head over to our divers so we can take a deep dive into Dana Cohen's captivating TED Talk. Thank you, host. Now, let's talk about uglies in food waste. So we're looking at Dana Cohen's TED Talks about repurposing uglies, and here's what happens. Basically, farmers will spend all this time, all this money, all this energy into creating crops. And then the crops come out with some cosmetic imperfections that no longer meet consumer expectations and are thus thrown away. We're talking about whole fields of crops just poof in the garbage. That's terrible. And that's kind of a huge part of food waste, and it's what Dana Cohen's actually goes into in the TED Talk. Specifically, she opens with talking about monkfish. Monkfish's face are wretchedly ugly. And so what would happen is farmers would cut them off and throw them in the ocean. Bye-bye uglies. However, this is bad because monkfish heads actually turned out to be a delicious cuisine. Imagine, all those people would have just skipped out on the delicacy of monkfish head by judging the monkfish by how it looks. This same tragedy happens in produce. People throwing away battered tomatoes and potatoes. Why? Because they aren't pretty. And that is a problem. We even looked at the pitches in class and the movement Dana Cohen talks about in the TED Talk of farmers selling their ugly products to stores at a reduced price, and thus the stores sell the products at a reduced price to consumers. That is a win-win. It means farmers get the ugly products off their backs, and consumers now have readily and financially accessible, sustainable food right at their fingertips. So, it was a really informative watch. Back to you, studio. Thank you, divers. And as per usual, folks, today we'll close out our episode on how this can pertain to the viewers at home, including research opportunities and job opportunities that can be heading your way shortly. So we looked at a lot of different concentrations today. So let's take a deep dive into some of them. Firstly, we're talking about energy. Now, anaerobic digestion is huge right now, but there's still lots of research to be done. Figuring out a way that vehicles can easily run on biogas is a huge research opportunity, as well as figuring out a way that we can put anaerobic digestion on a smaller scale to make it more accessible to smaller farms and smaller communities. We're also looking at insects. Now, there's still lots of research to be done with insects, but there's also lots of jobs. Insect farmers could be a new and upcoming job, but also insect culinarists, and figuring out a way to integrate insects into our food daily. We're also looking at mushrooms. Of course, mushroom research and mushroom farmers. But we're also looking at putting past as mushrooms as food and looking at them as resources. Mycelium-based fabrics and mycelium-based packagings could also be coming toward the market near you. And of course, last but not least, a subject that we all are already quite familiar with, just throwing out our ugly food. Now, of course, there were some pitches in class and some information in today's episode talking about how the uglies of today's vegetables and fruits are getting thrown away when they don't need to be. So figuring out a system that we can integrate uglies into our shopping carts could be very helpful. Now, we're taking all these vegetables and fruits that have some cosmetic imperfections and throwing them away when we could be selling them to grocery stores at a lower price and thus selling them to consumers at a lower price to make perfectly fine produce financially available to families who need it. Thank you for tuning in today, folks. As always, I've been your host. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.